श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं करुणालयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करं शङ्करं शङ्कराचार्यं केशवं बादरायणं सूत्रभाष्यकृतौ वन्दे भगवन्तौ पुनः पुनः ईश्वरो गुरुरात्मेति मूर्तिभेदविभागिने व्योमवद्व्याप्तदेहाय दक्षिणामूर्तये नमः. We will continue with our discussion on role of puja. We have taken up in the last session a few questions from the book, and we continue to take some more questions on this. The next question that is being raised is how to know what form of puja is necessary for the fulfillment of a specific desire. The Shastras are there to answer such questions. One has to consult the right people to get this information. The Shastra tells us which god is to be worshipped and also the procedure of worship. Generally, karma is done either for obtaining a favor or to mitigate pain. It has three aspects, namely upavasa, dana, and japa. Now, the rules for upavasa and also dana depend on the person who has to them. For example, a person who is sick can't do upavasa. Upavasa means fasting, etc. Similarly, one who is poor cannot do dana. However, japa everybody can do. So that is why there's a lot of stress on japa. Even in japa, some rishis stipulate the rules depending upon the health and other conditions of the concerned person. For example, in some kind of worship, one has to do the japa standing. Now, if a person has some health issues and cannot stand, then he or she is allowed to sit and do japa. And even if that they are unable to do, they can lie down and also do japa. They're all in the apastamba, what is called. That is special cases where some of the rules cannot be followed for certain particular reasons. Because of such flexibilities, anyone can do japa. This is the easiest way to reduce bad karma. That is why Bhagavan says, Sri Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, among all the yajnas, I am the Japa yajna. That is, Japa yajna is myself. Another question that is raised is, some people say that Yama, Indra, Agni, etc. are Vedic devatas, whereas Ananta Padmanabhan or Varamahalakshmi are all Puranic devatas. What is the difference between Vedic devatas and Puranic devatas? Some may think that all the Puranic devatas are not found in the Vedas, but we must remember one thing. Vedas are mysteriously deep and complex. For common people, it is difficult to comprehend them. Nevertheless, Bhagavan Vedvyas makes use of the stories and the devatas in the Vedas and mixes them suitably with itihasa, history, and propounds the contents through Puranic stories. The little exaggeration found here and there in the Puranas also have a purpose. It needs a deep study of the Vedas and the Puranas. Puranic stories are similar to modern pictorial science stories, which expatiate on the meaning of science, for example. The next question that is asked is, people are talking differently about Rama and Krishna. Rationalists say that Ramayana and Mahabharata are just only fictions, and Rama and Krishna are the heroes in that, like in any other fiction. But some others say they are very great men. Some others believe they are avatars of Vishnu. What do the Shastras say in this respect? You see, if you have heroes of any fiction, do you celebrate their birthdays? Not only that, We've got the horoscope of Sri Rama and Sri Krishna, the day they are born, what was the star constellation at that time. All these details are there, and people have been for ages celebrating these birthdays of Sri Rama as well as of Sri Krishna. So they cannot be just heroes of fictitious novels. Coming to the second opinion, they are of course great men, but they are much more than that for the following reasons. All persons, great or otherwise, are born due to their Nishchara karma. We will be studying about it in our sessions on rebirth. That will be the Mishra karma, that is the Papa and Punya, to what extent it is mixed and what kind of body they get. As we said, Papa and Punya, if Papa is more, one will get more than the Punya, one type of body one will get. If the Punya is more than the Papa, one number type of body one will get. If both are equal, one will get, they say, human birth. But Rama and Krishna did not face any such situation. They have not done any Papa or Punya, they didn't take this form because, like us, because of having done some karma, that is why they are taken as avatars of God. And Ramayana and Mahabharata are not fictions, they're epics. So, some rationalists may have vicarious pleasure in just declaring them to be just like any other fiction. Now, that brings us to the doubts about puja. Now, one doubt that people raise is sometimes we hear that only one God should be worshipped. Is it wrong to worship more than one God? You see, actually, there are great people who have only worshipped one God. But as per Shastra, different devatas will have to be worshipped for fulfillment of different requirements. For example, Chandra, the moon, the god moon, you know, is one who is controlling our mind. So, for any mental health, one has to pray to Chandra. Similarly, Surya is supposed to be the god of good health. So, if you need good health, you have to pray to Surya. The fulfillment of the particular desires may not happen by worshipping some other god. So, for health, you should worship Surya. Most people say Aditya Hridaya Stotram, and there are other stotrams on Surya Devata. Similarly, there are stotrams, that means, praising the Chandra Devata. There are many shlokas. And there are pujas connected also with this, which have been written down how they have to be performed. However, we must remember gods do not have mutual jealousy. If you worship one god, the other god is not going to become jealous. Then there are great men who continue throughout life only worship one god. And that is each one's preference. One can worship either one god or several gods. But what is the most important factor? We must remember whichever god is worshipped, it reaches only the Supreme God. About the Supreme God, we are going to talk, the formless Brahman. But before that, we thought it would be good to talk about God and puja and the doubts that people have about puja, etc. Another doubt people have. Many people worship the idols. Should one worship the idols or should one not worship the idols? What is the meaning of worshipping the idols? Now, we are going to show ultimately that God is formless, that is Brahman, which will be following in our next sessions. So, some people think that the formless God cannot be worshipped in any form. This statement, to some extent, is right. But everyone agrees that the Supreme God has to be worshipped. Then, how is a formless God to be worshipped? They say by dhyana. That is correct. That's what common people do, for as a joke. When we go to a temple, in front of the idol, we'll be standing and we'll close our eyes for a second. That means we want to take that idol into our heart and in our mind and then contemplate. Very naturally, most people will fold their hands and close the eyes in front of the idol when they go to. They may go to Tirupati or go to any temple. the normal practice, which shows that ultimately we are all to meditate about God in our own heart or in our own mind. However, this dhyana one is not able to do for long by because the mind must first get focused and concentrated on one thing. That is why different forms have been ascribed to various devatas. Because if, for example, Lord Vishnu, Shiva, they are all Parabrahman only, formless. However, because it is very difficult to concentrate or do dhyana on a formless God for most people. So, what Shastra does is gives some symbolic meaning to the shape they give to that God. For example, Lord Vishnu is lying down on the serpent. He is in yoga nidra. He's not doing anything. Just as Brahman doesn't do anything, Vishnu doesn't do. So Bhagwan Vishnu is Brahman only. However, for contemplation, if you remember Padmanabha, he is lying on this Sheshanag, it's got 1,000 hoods. And then there is Brahmaji on one side, you have Lakshmi ji, you have Bhudevi, Sri Devi, you have all Brahmaji coming from the lotus of his navel from the navel a lotus comes in which Brahmaji, the creator, is there. So they say Brahmaji is the creator, Vishnu is the sustainer, and Shiva is the one who dissolves this world, universe. So these forms are given because to some extent it is easy for the mind to concentrate and do dhyana for some time on that form. Take Kali as Sri Ramakrishna worshipped Kali. How long he did that sadhana, whether he needed or not, having taken the human birth, maybe to teach us how long he recalled the forms of Kali as a devata. It can be Kali, it can be Shiva, it can be Vishnu, and the symbols are there which will keep reminding us, and it will be easier for the mind to recall this God. You see something suddenly. See, Sri Ramakrishna is to go into ecstasy or samadhi when he heard about mother or he heard the song about mother, what she does, the Kali, about, Ram Prasad songs if he heard. So they kindle that feeling in us when the symbols when we see them. When we think of Vishnu or Guru Ayyappan, think of Shankha, Chakra, Gada, Padma, the Kundala, what he's wearing, what that he's got the peacock feather on his head. So all these symbols help us to concentrate at least for a little longer time. And when one really gets ready to concentrate on the formless Brahman, then the Shastras help him to come out of this worship of the idols and concentrate fully on the formless Brahman. What is exactly the procedure of puja? Now, suppose you bring someone home, a guest. What do? You love that person, you respect them. So the first thing you do is please come. You invite them with great love and affection. Please come and please take a seat. In the same way, when we do worship any god in the form of either the Shaligrama or in the form of Shiva Linga, we think it is Shiva himself or Vishnu himself as God who has come to our house. And then we say, please take this, please have some water. We give them bath and we give them fresh clothes to wear. And then we offer flowers, scent, to make them happy when they've come to our house. Simple that. This we call upacharas. There can be, 5 upacharas that you do. If you want to do the puja in a very short way, 5 upacharas you will do, you'll give asana, you will give water for bathing, you will give kumkum manchal, you will have the dhup and all that, and take arati. You can have 16 upacharas, you can have 64 upacharas. Chatushashta Chuparadhya, we say, in Lalita Sasna. 64 types of upacharas are there. You sing to the Devi, you dance to Devi, you do this. So many ways in which you entertain the God who has come to our house. So that is very, very important, that bhava. Now, another question that is raised is, it is told that any error in the performance of puja is dangerous. Is it so? Look here, God is very merciful. And when we have love, even if we make mistakes, well, He tolerates it. But what He wants is complete Shraddha. Even if you do technically everything correctly, but you do not have that Shraddha or Bhava, God is not enamored. Otherwise, He says, Patram Pushpam Phalam Toyam. You give me water, you give me even just leaf, some flower, but do it with devotion. I will very happily accept it. See, when Sudama goes to Bhagwan, he's so ashamed to offer to him that beaten rice, aval, what you call poha, and is hiding it. Bhagwan takes it out from his arms and says, "What have you brought for me, Sudama?" He used to, "Oh, you brought poha, I love it." And with so much affection, you know the story that 2 times he ate, third time Rukminiji came and held his hand. Because if he had eaten the third time, every wealth would have gone to Sudama. And that's what happened when he went home. He's seeing that small hut in which they were living and the poverty, everything had changed. His wife was wearing clothes of very posh house, everything. That's what Bhagwan wants, Shraddha, devotion. Now, what about errors in pronunciation of mantras? This is another question. This deals with the Vedic rituals. In that, we must remember for Sakama Karma Puja, in Vedic rituals, pronunciation and is very, very important. So also are the sequence and the methodology of the puja. Bhagwan Vedavyasa says there are 5 aspects to the success of a karma. Here we are talking of Sakama Karma. That means you have some desire to fulfill. And these 5 are namely pronunciation, the sequence in the performance of karma, then concentration, dakshina or to the priest, and annadana. You see, even in the 14th chapter Bhagavad Gita, we hear about how dhanam should be given. What is sattvic dhanam? What is tamasic dhanam or rajasic dhanam? Similarly, what is the yajna? If vidhihinam, if you have no vidhi and shraddha virahitam, such a yajnam is tamasika yajna. So at least when we do puja, it should be sattvic, because ultimately over time it will purify our mind. Even though we have desires, we will get punya of having done this. But when it comes to bhakti and pronunciation, not the Vedic chanting and mantras, it is Shraddha. It's just pure devotion. For example, there is the story, of Pundanam and Bhattatiri Pad, who wrote the Narayaniyam, was a great Sanskrit scholar. And Pundanam, was not that Sanskrit learned and all, but he had great devotion to Guru Ayappa. So what happens? Pundanam wrote this Jnanapana, and he says, "Please, will you read my books?" "Oh, I don't read other things and all." But when he went to the shrine, God was annoyed with him. Bhattatiripat could understand, because God said, "Look here," because he was making fun of Pundanam, that he said, in Vishnu Sahasranamam, Amara Prabhu, Mara Prabhu, where it is Amara Prabhu. Bhagavan said, your vibhakti is not important for me, Bhattatiripat. Pundanam's bhakti, even if it is without proper vibhakti, I am also Amar, I am also Maraprabhu, as much as I am Amaraprabhu. So it is this Shraddha and that God wants. Similarly, if a mistake is committed in pronunciation, even in the prayer for forgiveness, well, God understands. He is if we have Shraddha, He excuses everything. This is what we should always remember. And for Sakama Karma, there are no rules. When you do Nishkama Karma, of course, there are rules, and better always to follow the rules. However, if you have complete Shraddha and still you don't know many things, well, God always is merciful. He always excuses his devotees, his bhaktas. So, some more questions are left, which we'll take up in the next session. So, we conclude here. Kayena vacha manasendriyaiva buddhyatmana va prakriti swabhavat karomi yadyat sakalam parasmai narayana yeti samarpayami. Hari Om Tat Sat.